The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to stand up one more time and talk about the issue of the Canada-China Investment Treaty, or FIPPA, and to once again force this government to be accountable to Canadians about this deal. This FIPPA is a deal that will be in force once it is ratified by this government, which is any time now, for 31 years. Now I'm going to break it down for the members opposite because they mislead all the time. It's got a 15-year term. At the end of 15 years, either party can serve notice that they want to cancel the agreement in the 16th year. And if they do so, all investment that has been made under the first 15 years will continue to be bound by the terms of the FIPPA for a further 15 years. So that's a 31-year deal minimum. This deal, Mr. Speaker, took 18 years to negotiate. What's in this deal? Here are some of the concerns that we have. It contains a provision for secret tribunals where investors from either country can sue the other country for alleged violations of this deal, and if that's the case, the country being sued can choose, if it wishes, to have those hearings conducted in private with the documents not released to the public. That's the first time in Canadian history that any government has ever signed an international treaty that allows the other party to have tribunals held in private. Now, Mr. Speaker, this is taxpayers' dollars. If the investors are successful in suing Canada or vice versa, these are taxpayers' dollars at risk. It's a fundamental principle of the rule of law that all legal proceedings should be held in public. I can't believe in 2013 that we have to even mention that concept, but to this Conservative government, apparently it's a novel concept. Now, another provision of this agreement that's concerning. It contains a clause that allows both countries to keep all non-conforming measures that are in existence, but the countries agree that they will not bring in further non-conforming measures in the future. Now, what's a non-conforming measure, Mr. Speaker? It's a law or a rule or a practice that discriminates against foreign investors. Now, why is this of concern? Well, because, Mr. Speaker, China has many non-conforming measures. They are a command economy. Canada has very few non-conforming measures because we've been on a 25-year path of trade liberalization. So what this government has agreed to is they've signed a deal that lets China keep in perpetuity hundreds, perhaps thousands of non-conforming measures that will discriminate against Canadian investors while we have very few in reverse. Now, what are these non-conforming measures? China is renowned for having rules that require Canadian investors or any investors to do local sourcing. They force partnerships with local Chinese firms. They force companies to pay fees and licenses and all sorts of under-the-table money. These are the kind of non-conforming measures that will affect Canadian investors, and Canada has virtually none. This is an imbalanced deal, Mr. Speaker. Now, we're going to talk about debate. The government has said, well, the opposition could have had debate on this motion because we tabled this in the House for 31 days. Here's the truth, Mr. Speaker. An official opposition day motion permits us to have 1 day of debate and then a vote. The NDP tabled a motion at Trade Committee where we could have put this agreement before Trade Committee for multiple days of close examination and called stakeholders, Canadian businesses, Canadian investors, provinces, trade experts, lawyers, so we could get the input of the Canadian public. And what did the Conservatives do? They shot it down. They said no. So when the government says that they were willing to debate this deal, Canadians should not be fooled by that. That is absolutely untrue. So my question to the government is, if this is such a good deal, if this FIPPA is a good deal for Canadians, why won't they agree to bring this agreement before this House for multiple days of study, send it to the Trade Committee where we can hear from the Canadian public, and let's see if this is actually a deal worth supporting.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Trade.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have to admire the honourable member opposite for his persistence. You know, he asked a question in the House on the FIPPA with China. Then he gets to ask the question on the Late Show, and the question on the Late Show is to try to correct the mistakes that he made in the last question on the Late Show. So let's go back to his 16 years, because he was wrong on it in the last Late Show. He's wrong on it tonight. You know, here's how it happens. You got a 15-year term? Absolutely, totally agree. And these investments can be extended for another 16 years to make 31 years. Correct again, but only on those investments that have already occurred in that 15-year period. You're not extending the FIPPA for another 31 years. So clarification, clarity, doesn't hurt a thing. Happy to have clarity. So, Mr. Speaker, let's look at Canada's exporting, and let's look at what runs this economy. and let's understand the importance of trading with the growing economies of the world, including China. You know, the honourable member ignores a number of facts here. He ignores the fact that China today is the second largest economy in the world. He ignores the fact, Mr. Speaker, that China holds probably the largest reserves of foreign currency in the world. We don't know that for certain, but he's right up there in the top 2 or 3 holders of foreign currency in the world. And somehow or another, this economy that by 2030 will be the largest economy on earth, we shouldn't trade with. Like, have we lost our minds in this country? Do we not understand that the Asia-Pacific the Asia-Pacific Rim countries are the economy of the future? That Canada needs to participate in that economy. We need to be part of it, along with the European Union, along with the trading partners that we already have, that we have to have fair and balanced trade. And with the FIPPA, Mr. Speaker, we need to protect Canadian investment that already exists in China. It's not about trading just tomorrow. It's about protecting investment that's already in place and those companies and the work they're going to continue to do in China. This is a very, very important relationship and a significant relationship. You know, so we're moving forward, Mr. Speaker. We're moving forward with a very ambitious pro-trade plan. We understand the huge market in Asia, not just China, but Indonesia, Vietnam, Korea. There's tremendous opportunities. India, tremendous opportunities for Canadians. So let's look at our Canadian Foreign Investment Promotion and Protection Agreement with China. We'll provide stronger protection for Canadians investing in China. It establishes a clear set of rules under which investments are made and under which investment disputes are resolved. For Canadian businesses looking to set up in China, Mr. Speaker, they cannot be treated less favorably than any other foreign company looking to do the same. The Foreign Investment Promotion Protection Agreement, or FIPPA, also ensures that all investment disputes are resolved under international arbitration, ensuring that adjudications are independent and fair. Canadian investors in China will no longer have to rely on the Chinese legal system to have their disputes resolved. It's important to note that ours is the first bilateral investment agreement that China has signed, which expressly includes language on transparency of dispute settlement proceedings. The first one. Fundamentally, Mr. Speaker, this treaty is about protecting the interests of Canadians investing in one of the world's most dynamic and high-growth markets.
Honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Well, Mr. Speaker, finally we got someone on the government side who could acknowledge that this deal will govern investment for 31 years. It proves that even they are starting to read this agreement. Mr. Speaker, you know what you don't hear from the government? You don't hear them respond to the actual substantive points we raise. They don't stand up in this House and defend why the Conservatives would sign a dispute resolution mechanism that allows a country to go in private and resolve legal issues in private. Not a word. They don't stand up and defend why they signed a lopsided deal that gives Chinese investors in this country far more protections and rights than Canadian investors have in China. The New Democrats support protecting Canadian investors in China. We've never said otherwise, but misrepresentation is this government's stock in trade because they can't deal with the facts. And the facts are we can sign an investment agreement with China, but it should conform to Canadians' expectations of the rule of law and protect Canadian investors. Why won't this government, I ask again, bring this deal before Parliament and let's see and examine this deal and see if it's actually a well-structured deal, because it sure doesn't look like it from this point of view, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
I'm still mulling over in my head how the NDP can protect and agree to protect Canadian investors in China, but be against the FIPPA. So, like, I'm mulling that over. I'm willing to give that some consideration, and no, it doesn't square. That box does not square. It simply doesn't. So, you know, here's the deal, and here's the deal, Mr. Speaker, in a nutshell. Before coming to government in 2006, we didn't table treaties in the House of Commons. There was no opportunity for debate. So the honourable member says, well, he didn't want to debate it there. He wanted to debate it somewhere else. Well, you know what? The opportunity was here in the House of Commons to put the FIPPA on the table, to discuss it ad nauseum on the time allotted that they have every week for 31 sitting days, Mr. Speaker. For 31 days, the answer was a resounding no from the NDP. We don't want to look at it.